Cities of tomorrow. How the future city will change what it means to be human. Close your eyes. It's 2075. You wake up, not to an alarm. Your bedroom knows your sleep cycle better than you do and wakes you at the exact moment your body is ready. The window, which was a wall last night, turns transparent, revealing a city that looks nothing like anything that exists today. Outside, towers wrapped in living forests rise into clouds. Between them, glass bridges carry rivers of people on foot, on silent electric pods, on platforms that move like escalators through the sky. Below, no cars, no exhaust, no noise, just a city breathing. You step outside. The air is clean, cleaner than any city air today, because every building filters and recycles the atmosphere around it. You don't take a taxi, you don't call a ride. A pod arrives before you ask for it because the city already knows where you're going. You didn't tell it, it learned. The street below is not asphalt and concrete, it's a living surface, embedded with sensors, solar cells, and materials that shift and adapt to weather, load, and need. In the park between the towers, children play under trees that were engineered to produce more oxygen, filter more pollutants, and survive temperatures that would kill natural forests. On the 40th floor of a building nearby, farmers tend crops that will be on dinner tables tonight. On the 80th floor, a hospital treats patients with precision medicine so advanced that the diseases that killed millions in the 20th century are historical curiosities, like smallpox. And somewhere deep underground, a network of tunnels carries freight, waste, and energy so efficiently that the surface, all of the surface, belongs entirely to people. Not machines, not cars, not logistics, people. This is not utopia, it's engineering, it's architecture, it's urban planning taken seriously for the first time in human history. And it's coming. Not in 200 years, not in 100. The cities being designed and built right now, in Singapore, in Copenhagen, in Shenzhen, in Riyadh, in Songdo, are prototypes for a world that your children will inhabit as normal. The future city isn't science fiction, it's a construction project that's already started. And when it's finished, it won't just change where we live, it will change who we are. 2. The architecture of tomorrow, what buildings will actually look like. Let's get specific, not vague smart city buzzwords. Concrete, and then the opposite of concrete, details about what future cities will actually look like, feel like, and function like. The living building, when structures breathe. The most radical idea in future architecture isn't the shape of buildings, it's what they do. Today, buildings consume, they take energy, they take water, they produce waste. The future building doesn't consume, it produces. The Living Building Challenge, an international design standard, requires buildings to generate more energy than they use, produce more clean water than they consume, create zero waste, function like a tree, taking in sunlight and rain, releasing clean air and water, nourishing the ecosystem around them. In Seattle, the Bullitt Center is already doing this. 6 stories, solar panels on the roof generating 60% more energy than the building uses. Rainwater collection and filtration providing all water needs. Composting toilets eliminating sewage. Built from materials certified free of toxic chemicals. It opened in 2013. It was called the greenest commercial building in the world. By 2050, this won't be exceptional. It will be the minimum standard. Why will buildings change so dramatically? Because they have to. Buildings currently account for 40% of global energy consumption and 36% of global carbon emissions. The climate math doesn't work unless buildings change. Therefore, the building of the future isn't a design statement, it's a survival requirement. And architects who don't understand this will be designing buildings nobody can afford to operate. The vertical forest, cities growing inside out. In 2014, Architect Stefano Boeri completed 2 towers in Milan called Bosco Verticale, vertical forest. The towers are covered in 900 trees, 5,000 shrubs, and 11,000 plants spread across their facades. Not as decoration, as functional urban forest. The plants absorb CO2 and produce oxygen for the residents, regulate temperature, reducing cooling costs by 30%, create habitat for birds and insects, biodiversity in the middle of a city, filter particulate matter from the air, reduce noise pollution from the street below. The project was considered eccentric when it was announced. It won every major architectural award after it was built. Now cities around the world are building their own versions. Singapore's Jewel Changi Airport has a 40-meter indoor waterfall surrounded by a forest inside a glass dome. Persona Group's Tokyo headquarters grows vegetables and fruit trees in its office spaces, harvested by employees for their own lunches. These are not novelties. They are experiments in a new relationship between buildings and biology. Why is this more than aesthetics? Because cities are heat islands. They run 3 to 5 degrees hotter than surrounding areas because of concrete, asphalt, and lack of vegetation. As climate change intensifies, this urban heat island effect will become deadly. Green buildings are cooling systems. Therefore, the city of the future won't be gray and glass. It will be green. Not because it's beautiful, though it is, but because cities that don't go green will become uninhabitable. The underground city, the hidden revolution. Here's the part of future city design most people never think about, because it's invisible by definition. The underground. Cities are running out of surface space. The answer isn't to build higher, though that's happening too. It's to build deeper. Singapore is building an entire underground city, not metaphorically, a literally underground district with offices, shops, restaurants in transit running 50 to 80 meters below the surface. Helsinki has been doing this for decades. The Finnish capital has 400 kilometers of underground tunnels containing sports facilities, swimming pools, data centers, emergency bunkers, entire neighborhoods of parking and logistics. Helsinki calls it the Helsinki Underground Master Plan, a city beneath the city, freeing the surface for people, parks, and life. And there's something even more radical coming: underground freight. In European cities, research projects are testing networks of underground tunnels carrying freight in autonomous electric pods, eliminating delivery trucks from city streets entirely. In London, a project called Mole Solutions has tested underground freight delivery between warehouses and city center distribution points. The surface freed from delivery vehicles, the air freed from diesel exhaust. Why will cities go underground? Because the surface is the most valuable real estate on Earth. An underground infrastructure, once built, lasts centuries. Therefore, the city of the future has 3 layers: sky, surface, underground. And each layer has a specific purpose. The surface, finally, after 100 years of car dominance, belongs to humans. 3. The smart city, when the city itself becomes a computer. Now let's talk about intelligence. Not human intelligence, the intelligence of the city itself. Sensors everywhere, the city that knows. Singapore has covered its entire island city with 100,000 sensors, measuring air quality at every block, traffic flow on every street, water usage in every building, energy consumption in real time, waste levels in every bin, crowd density in every public space, noise levels in every neighborhood, temperature and humidity everywhere. This data flows into a system called Virtual Singapore, a real-time digital twin of the entire city. Every building, every road, every pipe, every tree, modeled in 3 dimensions, updated in real time. City planners can simulate the effect of any decision before making it. What happens if we close this road? The model shows the traffic effects. What happens if we plant 10,000 trees in this district? The model shows the temperature change, the energy savings, the air quality improvement. Why is this revolutionary? Because cities have historically been managed by intuition and politics. What the mayor wants, what the loudest residents demand, what the developers are willing to pay for. A city with a digital twin can be managed by evidence, by data, by simulation, decisions based on what will actually work, not what sounds good in a speech. Therefore, the smart city isn't about gadgets and apps. It's about governance. For the first time in urban history, cities can be managed with the precision of an engineering project. The question is, who controls the data? The AI traffic system, when roads manage themselves. Traffic is the defining misery of the modern city. The average American spends 54 hours per year stuck in traffic. Not driving, stuck. Worldwide, traffic congestion costs the global economy $1 trillion per year in lost productivity. The future city doesn't have traffic jams. Not because there are fewer vehicles, because the vehicles and the infrastructure are intelligent. In Columbus, Ohio, AI-managed traffic signals have reduced commute times by 26% on test corridors. Not by building new roads, by making existing roads smarter. Signals that adapt in real time to actual traffic flow, not pre-programmed timers. In China, Alibaba's City Brain system manages traffic in Hangzhou, a city of 10 million, using AI. Emergency vehicles receive green light corridors automatically. Traffic incidents are detected within 30 seconds. Crowd flows at events are predicted and managed before problems occur. The result? Hangzhou went from ranked 5th worst traffic in China to being ranked 57th. Same roads, same city, smarter management. Why does this matter beyond convenience? Because traffic congestion is a massive source of urban carbon emissions. Vehicles idling in traffic produce more pollution than vehicles moving. Eliminate traffic jams, and you dramatically reduce urban air pollution. Therefore, the future city doesn't need more roads. It needs smarter ones. And the technology to make roads smart already exists. It just needs to be deployed. The energy grid, when every building is a power plant. The future city's energy system looks nothing like today's. Today, centralized power plants burn fuel, send electricity through massive grids over long distances, losing energy at every step. Future. Distributed microgrids where every building generates its own electricity, solar panels, wind turbines, fuel cells, stores it in batteries, and shares surplus with neighbors through a peer-to-peer energy network. In 2017, the island of El Hierro in Spain became the first territory to run on 100% renewable energy. Wind turbines combined with pumped hydro storage, zero fossil fuels, an entire functioning economy. In Brooklyn, New York, a neighborhood microgrid allows residents to buy and sell solar energy directly to each other, bypassing the utility company entirely. In Tokyo, buildings are required to be zero energy by 2030, meaning new construction must produce as much energy as it consumes. Why will energy distribution change so fundamentally? Because centralized grids are fragile. One storm, one cyber attack, one equipment failure, and millions lose power. Distributed microgrids are resilient. You can't knock out a city if power is generated in every block. Therefore, the future city's energy system is not a utility. It's an ecosystem. Every building a node, every neighborhood self-sufficient. The grid becomes a safety net, not a lifeline. 4. Movement. The city without cars. The single most transformative change in the future city is the one that sounds most simple: removing cars. Not just reducing them, removing them from city centers, from residential streets, from the equation of urban life entirely. What cities look like without cars. When Oslo removed cars from its city center, something unexpected happened. Within a year, cycling increased by 60%. Pedestrian foot traffic increased by 10%. Businesses reported higher revenues. Noise levels dropped by 30 decibels, roughly the difference between a quiet office and a busy restaurant. Air quality improved measurably. The city felt and measured safer. Oslo didn't replace cars with better cars. It replaced them with better streets. Wide pedestrian boulevards, protected bike lanes, tram lines, and the streets themselves, freed from the logic of vehicle throughput, became places instead of passages. Cafe terraces, street markets, playgrounds where parking lots used to be. Why haven't more cities done this? Because car culture is deeply embedded in identity, economics, and politics. The car is freedom. The car is status. The car is the American dream. Removing the car feels like removing something fundamental. But here's the data. When cities remove cars from specific areas, the people most worried about it are wrong. Retailers fear losing customers who drive, but pedestrians spend more per visit than drivers. They just visit more often. Residents fear losing mobility, but with good transit and walkable streets, most people move around more, not less. Therefore, the car-free city isn't an ideological project. It's an evidence-based one. Every city that has tried it has wanted more of it. The future city won't have fewer cars because of climate guilt. It will have fewer cars because cars are simply the worst way to move people through dense space. Autonomous vehicles, the transition technology. But the transition isn't instant. Between today's car-dominated cities and tomorrow's pedestrian cities, there's a middle phase, autonomous vehicles. Self-driving cars that don't need parking near destinations. They drop off and leave. That communicate with each other, eliminating traffic jams through coordination. That can be shared, like a taxi that's always available, always affordable. The impact of widespread autonomous vehicles. Parking lots disappear. 30% of urban land in American cities is currently parking. When cars drive themselves, they don't need to wait near their owners. That land, massive amounts of centrally located urban real estate, becomes available for housing, parks, schools. Car ownership drops. Why own a car that sits idle 95% of the time when you can summon one in 90 seconds? Traffic deaths approach zero. 94% of accidents are caused by human error. Remove the human from the equation. Why isn't this here yet? Safety, liability, regulation, and the extraordinary difficulty of the engineering challenge. A car that can navigate every possible urban scenario flawlessly. It's coming. Waymo already operates fully autonomous taxis in San Francisco and Phoenix. The timeline to widespread deployment is 10 to 20 years. Therefore, autonomous vehicles are not the future of the car. They're the end of car ownership. And the end of car ownership is the beginning of the future city. Hyperloop and the connected city network. And beyond the city itself, how cities connect to each other. Right now, flying between cities is the fastest option for distances of 500 to 2,000 kilometers. Flying is massively carbon-intensive, time-consuming when you include airport time, expensive, geographically inflexible. The alternative being developed, Hyperloop. Passengers in pressurized pods traveling through near vacuum tubes at 1,000 plus kilometers per hour. Los Angeles to San Francisco in 35 minutes. New York to Washington in 29 minutes. London to Paris in 35 minutes, at airline speeds. With zero emissions, with city center to city center routing, no airports, no security theater, no middle seats. Virgin Hyperloop tested a prototype in 2020. Elon Musk's Boring Company is developing tunnel systems. The EU has funded feasibility studies across Europe. Why does this matter for city design? Because Hyperloop doesn't just connect cities, it merges them. If you can travel between cities in 30 minutes, the concept of a single city becomes fluid. You can live in one city and work in another as easily as commuting across town today. Cities become nodes in a continuous urban network, not isolated points, a mega region. Therefore, the future city isn't a city at all, it's a network. And the network is smarter, faster, cleaner, and more human than anything we've built before. 6. The climate city. How future cities survive what's coming. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Many of the cities we're planning for the future are being planned in places that the future will make uninhabitable. Miami, Mumbai, Jakarta, Bangkok, Ho Chi Minh City, all major cities, all partially below sea level or at risk from storm surge, all facing a future where 1 to 3 meters of sea level rise makes their current geography untenable. The Sponge City, when urban design fights flooding. China is building 30 sponge cities, urban areas redesigned to absorb rainfall rather than channel it through drains. Permeable pavements that let rain through. Wetland parks that store water during floods and release it during droughts. Green roofs that absorb water before it reaches streets. Urban streams restored to their natural channels after being buried in concrete for decades. Wuhan, one of the most flood-prone cities in China, has rebuilt 22 square kilometers as sponge city infrastructure. During the 2016 floods that devastated surrounding areas, the Sponge District absorbed the rainfall. No flooding. Why is this more than engineering? Because sponge city infrastructure is also park infrastructure. The spaces that absorb water are also the spaces where people exercise, play, and gather. Flood defense and quality of life in the same design. Therefore, the future city doesn't fight nature, it works with it. And cities that learn to work with water will survive what's coming. Cities that don't will sink. Cooling the city, the urban heat crisis. By 2050, 350 million people will be exposed to extreme heat, equivalent to today's most brutal heat waves, regularly. Not occasionally, regularly. Cities will be the worst places to be during these heat events because of the urban heat island effect. The future city's response? Tree canopy targets. Singapore requires 50% tree canopy coverage in all districts. Trees cool streets by 8 to 12 degrees through shade and evapotranspiration. Cool roofs and pavements. White and reflective surfaces instead of heat-absorbing black asphalt. Water features. Fountains, misting systems, urban streams that cool surrounding air. Night cooling. Buildings designed to release stored heat at night and stay cool during the day. Underground spaces. Pushing activity underground during the hottest parts of the day. In Singapore, research shows that urban forests and green corridors can reduce heat-related mortality by 30% compared to conventional city design. Therefore, urban heat is the silent killer of the future city, and the cities that survive will be the ones that treat cooling as infrastructure, as essential as roads and pipes. 7. The endgame. 3 versions of the city of the future. Scenario 1. The regenerative city. Cities become the solution to climate change rather than its cause. Buildings generate more energy than they consume. Water systems recycle everything. Urban forests absorb carbon. Autonomous transit eliminates car emissions. Food production happens within cities. By 2100, cities that adopt regenerative design have air cleaner than today's countryside, streets that are genuinely safe, neighborhoods that are genuinely communities, people who are genuinely healthier physically, mentally, socially than at any point in human history. This isn't utopia, it's engineering. Every element of this scenario is technologically achievable today. The barrier is not technology, it's will. Probability, real. If cities commit to transformation in the next 20 years. Scenario 2, the surveillance utopia. Future cities are clean, efficient, safe, and completely monitored. Every movement tracked, every behavior analyzed. Cities function beautifully for people willing to live inside the system. Dissent is managed. Privacy is a memory. The trade-off? Comfort and safety in exchange for autonomy and freedom. Singapore is sometimes called the prototype for this scenario. Extraordinarily functional, extraordinarily controlled. Where you draw the line between these two things determines whether this is heaven or hell. Probability, high. This is the direction of travel in most smart city projects. Scenario 3, the fractured city. Wealthy districts transform, the rest don't. The future city exists as islands of gleaming, green, pedestrianized excellence surrounded by seas of unchanged, car-dominated, polluted, excluded urban sprawl. The rich live in the future, the poor live in the present. The gap, already enormous, becomes architectural, permanent, structural. This is the scenario most likely if future city investment continues to follow existing patterns of urban development. Where investment goes to where returns are highest, which means where wealthy people already live. Probability, currently the highest, without deliberate policy intervention. 8. Final thoughts. The city is a choice. So that's the story. The city of the future is not a fantasy, it's a design problem. And the designs exist. The technology exists. The evidence exists. Copenhagen proves you can build a city where 62% of residents cycle to work. Singapore proves you can build a city of 6 million that runs cleaner than a Swiss village. Medellin proves you can transform the world's most dangerous city into a model of urban innovation through design, transit, and community investment. The future city is not waiting to be invented. It's waiting to be chosen. And here's what that choice looks like in practice. Every city council deciding whether to build a highway or a bike lane. Every developer deciding whether to build parking or a park. Every government deciding whether to subsidize cars or subsidize transit. Every architect deciding whether to design for maximum profit per square meter or maximum human flourishing. Why does this matter to you? Because you live in a city, or you will. Because 70% of humanity will be urban by 2050. Because the design of cities determines the quality of human life at the largest scale imaginable. And because the future city, the one Mira's grandchildren will grow up in, is being designed right now. In planning meetings you're not invited to. In developer boardrooms making profit calculations. In government offices writing zoning codes. The future city will be determined by these decisions, unless enough people understand what's at stake and demand something better. Something that doesn't just move traffic efficiently, something that makes human life magnificent. The city is the greatest invention in human history. It's also the most improvable. And the gap between what our cities are and what they could be is the single greatest opportunity of the 21st century.